Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. Today I have for you a fun card technique that might look a little overwhelming at first, but I promise you probably isn't as bad as you might think. This is what I'm calling the strip scrap card. This is a design that I saw from a fellow crafter. I'm not sure that she's a demonstrator, but her name is Martha Peak, and she shared this, and I just was really taken with it. I like it because it's kind of like a quilt design with the piecing, and I'm not a quilter myself. It's just a skill I haven't picked up yet, but my mom is a big quilter, and I love looking at all her designs, and so I really liked getting to make this look, but using paper to do it. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I'll teach you how to make it. So we're gonna start with a card base. So I am using a piece of wild wheat as my card base. This is just 8.5 by 5.5 scored down the middle. And then to it, we are going to add a layer of cardstock. And let me grab my little measurement pieces here. Oh, I skipped a step. We'll get to that in just 1 minute. This is a panel of early espresso that is 5.25 by 4. This is kind of what I consider my standard insert or panel piece for the front or inside of a card. So 5.25 by 4. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, and then we're going to take a look at a template that I created, and we're going to run through a little bit of that before we get moving on the rest of the card. Now, you can use any kind of adhesive you want for this. I wouldn't really recommend tear and tape. That might just be a lot of fussiness that you don't want. I started out thinking that I was going to use glue on this card, and I did that for a couple of them, but then I figured out my tape runner worked just as well, and I didn't have to wait for the glue to dry, so I decided to pursue the cards using that. So we're going to go ahead and use my tape runner tonight, but feel free to use whichever adhesive you like best. All right, so my apologies for not starting with the template. So here is a template that I created so that you can see all the measurements at once. And if you've got your phone handy, you can take a screenshot so that you can zoom in a little bit. I am also going to post a picture of this over on my Faithful Stamper page on Facebook. And that way you can kind of zoom in there as well. And I will post pictures of the samples there. So if you haven't looked me up on Facebook, I'd be very happy to have you as part of my community there on my Faithful Stamper page. So this is the design, and this is the 5.25 by 4 panel here that I drew everything out on. So basically we have 2 sets of strips that are, as marked by the X here, 5/8 of an inch wide by 3 inches tall. The A and B refers to the print of DSP. So I have A for the 3 columns here, and then B for my coordinating print. And then C are these panels here that run horizontally. So like I said, we've got those 2 sets of strips. At the top and bottom, we have matching prints. These panels here, they have a little star. I knew if I wrote in the boxes, you wouldn't be able to see them. They're 5/8 of an inch wide by 1 1/8 of an inch tall. And I apologize if my voice is a little bit not up to snuff. We've had some sickness running through my house, so I haven't been able to do videos for a couple of weeks. The center column is the print A. It's just a little bit wider, so everything is 1/8 of an inch wide, 1 inch wide. The top and bottom pieces are 1 1/8 of an inch tall. And then the middle piece is 1 inch wide and 7/8 of an inch tall. This isn't quite drawn perfectly to scale, but pretty close. You'll see it better represented here. It's just a little bit smaller than the top and bottom piece. I will run over these measurements again as we start gluing the pieces on, but I wanted you to be able to take a picture of that if you wanted, and just see everything at a glance before I got busy putting everything on individually. Okay, and as I said, those pictures will be on the Facebook page. Also, I wanted to say it's up to you. You can glue all your papers on this panel and then glue it on your card front, or you can do what I did here and glue the panel on and then work directly on the panel. It really makes no rhyme or reason, whatever you are most comfortable doing. Okay, so let me pull all my paper strips over. As I said, we're going to start with I'm going to start with the longer strips. Now, the gal that designed the card, she liked to work from the outside in and finish in the middle, which I am going to finish with this middle piece. But what I have found is I like to start with one of the 2 sets of longer strips and sort of work my way around the card and then fill in the middle. So I kind of end up with this middle portion last, but really whatever you want to do is fine once you're comfortable with the layout. So these strips here are 5/8 of an inch wide by 3 inches tall, and we have print A and print B. So I'm going to pull one set of each and put to the side and then work with one panel of each here. So I'm going to turn them over, and actually trying to save my workspace here, I've got my silicone craft mat. This way, if I get glue on it or tape runner, I can easily wipe it or wash it off. Okay, so I'm going to start with the outside panel first. And I find, for whatever reason, I like to turn it a little bit sideways so I can just get a better visual. So I hope it doesn't confuse you with it being slightly on an angle as I work on these first couple of pieces. So there's the outside piece. And you want to give it a little bit of a border. You don't want to do too much, because if you do too wide of a border, you're going to get to the other side of the card and it's going to be too close to the edge or run off the edge, and then your panel will look a little bit funny. So just kind of a narrow border, and then you want to be consistent with the gaps in between as well. So just keep that in mind. Now the next thing I'm going to tackle are these 2 pieces. I'm going to start with this one down here. And these pieces, I want to talk about your options. So this is cardstock, or you could use a 3rd print of designer series paper. These are 3/4 of an inch tall by 2 and 3/8 of an inch wide. Can you tell I really don't work with 1/8 of an inch much? I really like the bigger fractions a lot better. But for this, you need 1/8. Now, I could just use cardstock that's plain, but I like it to have a little something, like a little pizzazz. So what I did here was I took my panel of cardstock, I cut 2 that are 3/4 of an inch by 2 3/8. We're going to stamp on one in a minute, and I'm going to move that one to the side, but I embossed this one. I ran it through an embossing folder, and so now I have the nice texture. I could have very easily gone with a 3rd print or a different color of paper, so feel free to use whatever you like there. I just ran out of big dimensionals. Let me grab my scissors here. I don't waste anything, so I like to cut apart the edges here and use them. Now, you could glue everything on your card flat. You could pop every piece up on dimensionals. You could pop the whole front panel up on dimensionals. You can mix and match. So whatever you like to do, this is a great card for being all about the options, like I always say. So again, a little bit of a border on the edge. I typically try to line it up. And so this piece is popped on dimensionals. And then, let's see. We have 2 more sets of print A and print B. So there's print B. Let's see, this is print A. These are 5/8 of an inch wide by 1 1/8 of an inch tall. Again, I'm going to pull one set to the side. That'll be up in this top, or be on the left side of the card. Flip them over and put the glue on. I did happen to think, I was looking at this design as I'm fussing with glue here. See, this is why I have my silicone mat. There is a much easier way to do this card if you like, although it doesn't, then you're not using as many strips of or little pieces of the designer series paper. But if you really wanted to make it easier on yourself, you could just do one strip of designer series paper that's 5/8 of an inch, run it all the way down the card, and then come back and create this look using these 2 panels and then a coordinating piece of cardstock behind to create that frame. I didn't end up making a sample like that. I didn't want to confuse you. I'm already throwing a lot at you. But if you're thinking, I don't want to fool with all these little pieces, just do long strips and then finagle your design another way. So up to you. Okay, so for this middle piece here at the bottom, we're going to have 2 pieces that are 1 inch wide by 1 1/8 of an inch tall. They're in print A. This is our middle column, so we're going to have 1, 2, 3. And you're going to have the 1 inch width. So I'm going to set one to the side and use the second one. The other piece is going to fill in this spot at the top. Oh, my glue, notoriously camera shy, is going to start acting funny. All right, so if you put this paper down and you notice it's a little bit shorter, it just means you've got that 1 inch turned the wrong way. So just if you turn it the other way, you'll see it'll be the same width. It's just that 1/8 of an inch difference, but it's enough that you would notice it. Okay, so now we're going to go back to those 2 larger strips and we're going to fill out this bottom corner. And I do like to go, I kind of jump, I skip this space and jump to the outside. I eyeball my border. And this way, if there's any kind of hedging to do, I can do it here rather than realize I'm too close to the edge or something once I get to this panel. So this is why I do it. You can kind of finagle a little bit if your spacing is a little bit off and it's less noticeable in my opinion. Okay, so there's that. Next, we're going to do this second horizontal piece. So that's my stamping. Now, I'm pulling my colors completely out of the DSP, which I don't think I told you, it's our Wildflower DSP. Beautiful colors. So that's the Wild Wheat, the Early Espresso, and the Moody Mauve. So my words here are for you. You do have to be careful with your stamp selection because this is only 2 3/8 of an inch wide, so really long sentiments don't work, and you don't want something too tall. The first card I did, I had to cut off a little bit of my word hello, and I didn't like it, so I went with the For You, which is a little bit smaller. And I could just simply put this panel on, but I wanted it to be a little bit fancier, a little more pizzazz, my favorite word. So, let's see. I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper there, my Moody Mauve, and my favorite stamps, speckles. If you've watched me before, you know I'm all about a speckle or a sploosh. So I'm going to take my Moody Mauve. I'm going to stamp off and then stamp on to my actual strip of cardstock because I don't want the speckle to be so dark it overwhelms the words. And so if I stamp off, it's a second generation print. And then I can go back without re-inking and fill in if I've got any spots that are missing. And that's just a little something different, a little more texture, a little more eye-catching in my opinion. Okay, while I'm here and have my stamps out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my envelope corner with my sploosh. I didn't stamp off on this one because I'm not as worried about it. It's not overpowering anything. And then my interior panel, which is 5 1/4 by 4. And I'm simply going to stamp the corners. I don't like plain Jane insides. And now I can close that up and not worry about my ink. All right, so I'll put that in the inside in a moment. This piece I'm going to pop on dimensionals. As I said, feel free to put anything on dimensionals that you want. You could do every single strip of paper on here if you really wanted to. I don't know that I'm that ambitious, but I like to mix and match. So this panel is going to get laid horizontally right across there. I'm going to jump back to the corners here and these little 5/8 by 1 1/8. These are probably the hardest ones to do with a tape runner. with glue. Not too tricky. You do have a little more flexibility with glue as far as positioning. If you need to pick it up and move it, you usually have the ability to do that. But then you do have to give it that little bit of dry time. Okay, so 2 more spots to fill in. So this top piece is 1 inch wide by 1/8 of an inch. That should fill in like so. And then to fill in the middle piece, this panel is, last post-it, 1 inch wide by 7/8 of an inch tall. Now, Martha, the card designer, mentioned that sometimes she had to trim down this piece. I actually, this one's close, but it is gonna fit. I did not have to do that on any of my cards. I'm not sure if I'm doing something different than she is, if it's the way I'm positioning the paper. But in one case, I cut a piece that was a little bit taller just to fill in a little bit more of the space. But this one pretty well fits in there at that 7/8 of an inch tall. So, let's see, I think I will leave it this way. There we go, look at that. Great way to use up strips of paper if you've got small pieces left. I'm gonna take my adhesive, put this panel on the inside. These are great for any occasion too. And for example, this card with the For You at the front, I could put a birthday sentiment, a get well sentiment, just write my note. I could use it for any occasion here, really. Just to finish off the card, I'm going to use a little bit of bling. This is our Pecan Pie and clear ribboned adhesive back dots. I like them. They're very flat. They're low profile, but I don't know if they come across well on camera. There's a teeny tiny ribbon design in them, so it's a little less obvious in the Pecan Pie, but it is there, and I just like I like the eye-catchingness with the ribbon design there. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these and put them on the card. I'm using my Take Your Pick tool. Otherwise, these things get stuck to my fingernails and I get fingernail accents, or I shoot them across my craft table and then I can't ever find them. Okay, so there's the bling and a very, very beautiful, I think eye-catching sort of paper pieced card. And like I said, I know it looks overwhelming, but once you cut one and do it, it really comes together well. And what I found when I was putting them together, since I was doing all the cutting, I cut extra sets and I can put together more cards now. So it's a really quick way to use up lots of scraps of paper. Now, as always, I have more samples to show you because I like to show you the different options that you have. You don't just have to use the basic layout like this. You can mix and match with different components. For example, we're going to fast forward a little bit to Christmas. It's October now, but if you're watching when I film the video, but Christmas is coming and we have some beautiful Christmas products, some holiday products, so I wanted to showcase them. So here's my Christmas design. Peppermint is the best season. So I used my cardstock here to do my sentiment one, but I put DSP here. And then I added my little cup of holiday goodness there. So you can embellish with any kind of images. You could use different punches. You could really have a lot of fun with creating this card. Next up, I backtracked a little bit to Halloween. And so this is the original card. You can actually change the orientation on this card using all the same measurements. So this one, I just turned the card sideways. All my measurements are the same. If you have a directional paper, you do want to be careful that you're cutting it opposite, just with your 5/8 of an inch tall instead of long or wide. Yep, I said that right. The only thing with this card is here, your horizontal piece, they run up and down if you change the orientation. So I decided to use a DSP that I could stamp on. Then you do have a little bit longer of a space here to put a sentiment in. We don't happen to have a whole lot of stamps that run vertically, and the one I do have does not fit in here. So that's why I changed it up a little bit as far as positioning on this piece. Here I added the cauldron from our Potions and Spells set, added some other accents and a little bit of bling, and there is a fun Halloween card. And I like that one so much, I made a similar, I used the same papers, changed up my card base color, and added some different elements. So here is another Halloween design as well. And it's funny how just changing the background of even the card base itself changes the look of the card. And then I saved my two favorites for last. Back to that vertical orientation, I have a masculine birthday card. Here I used 3 prints of Designer Series paper. I added a banner with my sentiment, and I added some stamped and die cut planes. This is from our Adventurous Sky Suite. That's what the paper and the stamp set is from. I accented with some of our smoky slate and basic gray pearls, which while pearls aren't really manly, the darker colors really lend themselves to this set. And then there is the inside of the card. And to coordinate, I used matching DSP on my envelope flap. And I was really finding I needed some more masculine cards. So I used our Designer Series paper that is wooden textured. I apologize, I don't remember the name of this set. But again, I used a light colored one that I could stamp directly on. I added some more masculine embellishments. And then I popped up this piece, but also these two as well, just kind of to mix and match. And I really like how this card looks. This is probably my favorite. And I added a strip of Designer Series paper on the inside as an accent and kept it going with my envelope flap. So I hope you like the design. I thank Martha for creating and sharing it. And this is obviously great for any occasion, male, female, any holiday. You could have a lot of fun with it and use scraps of paper that you have laying around. You could even, if you don't have a lot of Designer Series paper, you could pick one print and then use colored cardstock or embossed cardstock. Play around, use your options. It's a lot of fun, I think. It's just a springboard for your creativity. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you will consider coming back to look at more videos here on the page. If you're not already a subscriber, I would love to have you here as one, and you can click the notification bell if you'd like to be notified each time a video is posted here on the page. And as I mentioned, you can hop on over to Facebook and look up The Faithful Stamper and find me there. I share different incentives that the company has going on and other card designs, and I would be happy to have you there as a follower on my page. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and happy crafting.